Welcome to another episode of ASMR Sea Shanties and Folksongs. Today we're looking at Roll the Old Chariot Along, also known as A Drop of Nelson's Blood. Curiously, this is a song that is regarded today as a shanty, but its origin is that of a hymn. While the main melody has remained consistent, the original hymn's lyrics were more religious-oriented, reflecting the fact that the song was popularized and performed by the Salvation Army, and in turn was presumably adapted from a spiritual hymn and plantation song from the 1800s. The Salvation Army is a church and charity based in London, England, though it has since spread to other countries around the world. Some sources describe them as evangelical, others as Protestant, similar to the confusing fact that Catholicism is a subsect of Christianity. Protestants are a subsect of evangelists. So, technically, both descriptions are correct. They are a Protestant evangelical organization. And I simply can't think of evangelists without thinking of these guys. But that's neither here nor there. So, the Salvation Army presumably adapted Roll the Old Chariot from African Americans of the 19th century. Evidence being that the earliest record of the song that my research turned up is in Cabin and Plantation Songs, printed in 1901. It's also telling that the Salvation Army, founded in 1865, came to the USA as of 1880. The hymn was in turn printed by them in a booklet from 1911, titled Salvation Army Songs. Given the timing of things, this strongly indicates the song originated as a spiritual hymn in at least the 1800s, if not earlier. The Salvation Army came along to America, picked up the tune, and altered the lyrics. Seafaring folk in turn adapted the melody with their own lyrics, and voila, a sea shanty is born. Backtracking to the song's origin as a plantation song. Now, the image and terminology of a chariot rolling onwards has been used in religious spaces for a while, but in regards to our song in question, the first tangible record of the song, Roll the Old Chariot, was it being printed in 1901 in Cabin and Plantation Songs, as sung by the Hampton students. The Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute, now known as Hampton University, opened in 1868 in Hampton, Virginia. Their founding mission, to educate former slaves in the South. The aforementioned booklet, Cabin and Plantation Songs, collected 50 spirituals from the Hampton student body at the time. So, between the black community that sung the song as a spiritual, plus the Salvation Army adapting it as a hymn, the original lyrics from the 19th century were quite different from the version most folks know today, with images of rolling the chariot over the devil and so on. But the structure of the song was prime material for a shanty, particularly a stamp-and-go shanty. Stamp-and-go shanties, such as Drunken Sailor, are true to their name, songs sailors could stamp the beat to as they worked on the ship, such as hauling a line, marching and tugging to the beat. This contrasts with capstan songs such as Away Rio, Spanish Ladies, etc., that are more narrative in nature and thus often sung for long tasks, such as winding a capstan. Furthermore, a difference I notice between Stamp and Go versus capstan songs is that capstan songs have more of a dialogue nature to them, with the lead singer singing the main stanzas and story, while the rest of the crew calls back with the chorus. Whereas stamp-and-go shanties are much more melodic and repetitive. After the lead singer sings the first line of each stanza, the rest of the crew follows up and repeat the line as a refrain. So, with sailing being the only means of transport across the Atlantic at this time, it comes as no surprise that Roll the Old Chariot would have been adapted as a shanty. Perhaps in part to how widespread the Salvation Army is, the song would have been more widely spread through them. Given their headquarters in London, paired with their activity in the USA, It would have been a fun and easy-to-learn melody to pass the time on a long voyage. And to extend the song or simply make it more suitable for a voyage, the lyrics would have changed. The song lends itself well to improvisation, which may explain how stark the difference is between the shanty versus its hymn origins. While singing it as a shanty to work to, folks would likely add an impromptu verse about what they were thinking or doing, and the more popular stanzas stuck over time. According to the Longest Johns, who sing this playful rendition, it's not uncommon for singers at festivals to easily go some 70 verses together.
And a toasty on the grill wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind.
Kind of reminds me of singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall to pass the time on a long road trip. In hindsight, why did we sing this song as kids? As for the shanty's alternate name, A Drop of Nelson's Blood, this refers to a certain Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson. He was a flag officer in the British Royal Navy from 1771 to 1805, meaning his status was high enough that he was entitled to fly a flag at his position to mark where he was executing commands. Nelson was perhaps a bit of a pop culture reference at the time, given his name made it into the shanty's lyrics, or at the very least was well known to British singers, particularly those well-versed in sailing and maritime history. To this day, monuments still exist in the UK in his honor. He had a prolific career in the Navy and died in the Battle of Trafalgar. In this battle, a part of the Napoleonic Wars, he helped lead Britain to victory against a combined Spanish-French navy. He was fatally wounded by a French sharpshooter. In order to preserve his body for burial back on British soil, his body was preserved in a barrel of whiskey, myrrh, and camphor, a wax-like substance derived from camphor trees, which allegedly caused some controversy, as when the public heard word of this, they argued he would have been better preserved in rum, given rum was perceived as the obviously better choice. Other folks wrongly assumed he had been preserved in rum. All things considered, A Drop of Nelson's Blood came to refer to a drink of rum. Before we sing the shanty rendition of this song, I want to take a look at the lyrics as the song evolved, starting with its original recording in Cabin and Plantation Songs. In this early version of the song, we see a journey and gathering of numbers on the road. We start by going from mansion to pick others up, and many are on the road, such as mothers, fathers, elders, deacons. Now the stanza about the preacher strikes me as interesting in that it's different from the others. I can't decide if they're implying to roll the chariot over him because he's a false prophet, or if it's more well-meaning and is like, oh, there's the preacher on the road, let's pull over for him. I don't know, guys, I'm leaning towards the first interpretation here. The stanza is just so different from the others and literally says if he's in the way, just roll it over. All the same, there's some religious imagery going on, between the preacher and deacon and starry crowns. Furthermore, this early stanza, going to join with the 144,000, is a reference to Revelations. In the Bible's book of Revelations, the number 144,000 appears thrice, and in its first appearance, Revelation specifies it is the number of people sealed for redemption from the 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe in turn is said to have 12,000 members sealed. So in total, 12 times 12,000 gives us 144,000. Moving on to the Salvation Army's lyrics, we still see some religious imagery. Like the plantation version, we see lyrics implying a gathering of people, of a sort of collective journey. And the last two stanzas talk of rolling the chariot over the devil should he get in the way, but taking the time to pull over for sinners. Funny enough, encompassing both of my interpretations of that preacher stanza. And then we have our shanty. Looking at the most common stanzas sung in the shanty, we have a reference to the horn. This also came up in a prior episode for Away Rio. it most likely refers to Cape Horn, a port town on the southern tip of Chile, on Hornos Island. Nelson's blood, as explained just earlier, refers to a drink of rum. And we'll all hang on behind. Looking at the evolution of our song here, from the Hamptons we have the refrain, "If you don't hang on behind." From the Salvation Army we have the refrain of, "And don't drag on behind." And in our shanty we have, "And we'll all hang on behind." I interpret these refrains as echoing a similar concept of, hop onto the chariot, don't drag on behind, keep up with us. Particularly given the imagery the Hampton version of the song gives of traveling in a group and coming across others. And with that final reflection on the lyrics, a big thank you to new and repeat singers alike in this rendition. Joining me for the shanty are Sneha Kumar, Captain Matt ASMR, Blump Audios, and Akuji Saito.
Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. And we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Oh, we'd be all right if we make it round the horn. We'd be all right if we make it round the horn. We'd be all right if we make it round the horn, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Well, a nice wash below wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a nice wash below wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a nice wash below wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Well, a drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Well, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind.
kalten Wasser, wenn du so schnell, wenn du hart und